Good morning, students. Today we are going to start the sixth chapter, that is water and mineral metabolism. So, in water and mineral metabolism, we are going to study about the role of water and minerals in the life processes. Okay. So, first of all, we are going to study about the water metabolism. So, in case of distribution of water, so water content of the body is about 60 to 70% of the total body weight. So, water pressure in the body may be classified as intracellular water and extracellular water. So intracellular water is about 50% of the total body weight, and extracellular water is about 20% of body weight. And extracellular water is further classified as plasma, interstitial fluid, connective tissue, and transcellular fluids. Okay. So plasma is about 7.5% of body weight, and interstitial fluid is about 20% of the body weight. And connective tissue having bones and cartilage is about 15% of our total body weight. Okay. So also transcellular fluids, that is cerebrospinal fluid and endolymph, etc., they are the 5% of the total body weight. Okay. So functions of, now we are going to discuss about the functions of the body water. So functions of the body water are: it acts as a solvent for cellular components. So water helps in the regulation of the body temperature, and it acts as a carrier for nutrition and waste products. And it regulates electrolyte balance and osmotic pressure. And it lubricates joints and membranes like pleura and peritoneum. So water balance, so definition of water balance is: in health, a balance is maintained between intake and output of water. So, this regulatory mechanism prevents accumulation of water leading to edema, and loss of water leading to dehydration. And this regulatory mechanism is further influenced by hormones like ADH and aldosterone. So, water gain body gains water through the following sources, that is drinking of water and beverages, water present in foods, water formed by oxidation of foods, etc. And water loss is body losses water through the following routes. First one is through lungs by respiration, through skin by perspiration, and excretion through urine and feces. So body is said to maintain water balance when water gain is equal to the water loss. Okay. So balance sheet of water, if you look at the balance sheet of water intake per ml per day is, we are drinking the 1200 ml of water per day, and we are obtaining the water from the food, that is about 1000 ml per day. And water which is obtained from the oxidation food is about the 300 ml per day. So total intake of water ml per day is about the 2500 ml per day. Okay. So water loss ml per day is also equal to the water intake. So there is a balance between the water intake and water loss. So next we have is dehydration. So it is a negative water balance leading to decrease in water content of the body. So this occurs when the output of water is more than intake. So dehydration may occur due to water depletion, salt depletion, and both salt and water depletion. And water depletion is called primary dehydration, and it occurs due to inadequate water intake. And it may occur in the illness like difficulty in swallowing or coma, and non-availability of water as in desert or ocean. So, as a result of water depletion, the concentration of electrolytes increase in extracellular compartment. So, to compensate this, water is drawn. So, to compensate this, water is withdrawn from intracellular compartment to extracellular compartment. So intracellular compartment or intracellular water decreases causing dehydration. So the symptoms of dehydration are the thirst, dry tongue, dry skin, and increased body temperature. So next we have a salt depletion, that is called secondary dehydration. So it occurs when fluids with high sodium and chlorine content they are lost from the body. So in this case, the significant ion that is lost is sodium. So it must be called sodium depletion rather than salt depletion. So the causes are the loss of sodium due to excessive sweating, use of diuretics with a low sodium or salt free diet, and both salt and water depletion. So it is a mixed type of depletion causing dehydration. So in this case, there is excessive loss of water. Along with this case, there is excessive loss of sodium and chloride ion. So it is further aggravated by no free intake of water, that is water restriction. So this results in a decrease in both extracellular or intracellular fluid volume. So ultimately, BP is lowered and also urine volume decreases. So there are various effects of the dehydration on the body. So dryness of mouth and increased thirst, dryness, wrinkling and loosening of the skin, rise in body temperature, loss of weight due to reduction in tissue water, increased pulse rate and decreased cardiac output, muscle weakness and cramps due to loss of electrolytes and exhaustion and collapse. Next we have is water intoxication. So it is the opposite of the dehydration. It is caused by excessive retention of water in the body. So it is caused by the renal failure, excessive administration of IV fluids, and hypersecretion of antidiuretic hormone or aldosterone. So the symptoms of water intoxication are the headache, nausea, incoordination of movements, and muscle weakness. So that is all about the water metabolism. So next we have is mineral metabolism. So introduction is our body contains 29 different elements. So mineral constitute about 8% of the body weight, and these minerals are essential for a number of metabolic processes like blood coagulation, muscle contraction, and enzyme action. So the classification of mineral elements is, first one is principal elements. Principal elements are also called macro minerals. The examples of macro minerals or principal elements are the magnesium, sodium, potassium, calcium, sulfur, phosphorus, and chlorine. So these are the examples of the macro minerals. So next we have also have is micro minerals, that is, which are called trace elements. So first one is essential trace elements: iron, iodine, zinc, copper, cobalt, and fluorine. And second one we have is possibly essential trace elements like nickel, vanadium, tin, and silicon. So next we have is non-essential trace elements, which are called aluminium, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, and lead. So if we look at the functions of the individual minerals, so first one is sodium. So the function of the sodium is to maintain the acid base balance and maintenance of the osmotic pressure. And next is potassium. So the function of the potassium is maintenance of acid base balance and contraction of muscles. And the third one is calcium. So the role of calcium is very much important in bone and teeth formation, and it is very much important in the blood coagulation. So next mineral is phosphorus. So synthesis of DNA and RNA, synthesis of phospholipid. These processes involve the presence of phosphorus. And next process is sulfur. So component sulfur. So sulfur is a component of biotin. Sulfur is a component of biotin, cysteine, and methionine. So next we have is iron. So iron is important for the synthesis of hemoglobin, cytochrome synthesis. And next we have is iodine. So iodine is required for the synthesis of thyroid hormone. Next is zinc. Zinc is a component of carbonic anhydrase for insulin synthesis and release. And next is copper. Copper is a great constituent of peroxidase and catalase, helps in incorporation of iron in hemoglobin. And next is cobalt, which is important for the synthesis of vitamin B12. Next is calcium. So of all the minerals, calcium is present in large amounts in the body, so it constitutes 2% of the body weight. And a normal adult has 1,200 grams of calcium in the body. So next is physiological functions. So calcium is necessary for the formation and growth of bones and teeth. So it is essential for coagulation of blood. It is essential for transmission of nerve impulses, and it is also necessary for muscle contraction. It helps in maintaining acid-base balance and water balance, and it activates a number of enzymes. So sources are the milk, cheese, and vegetables. And the blood calcium is in blood, calcium is present only in the plasma. So the plasma concentration of calcium is 9 to 11 mg%. So plasma calcium exists in three forms: ionized or diffusible form, unionized or non-diffusible form, and unionized complex with citrate. So except unionized form, the other two forms can diffuse through cell membrane and capillaries. So next we have is factors maintaining plasma calcium. So maintenance of normal plasma calcium level is governed by the following factors. First one is parathyroid hormone. So it maintains the plasma calcium by mobilizing calcium from bones. So in case of vitamin D, it increases the absorption of calcium from intestine and plasma proteins. So they are about 40% of plasma calcium is found in plasma proteins, and it is mainly found in the albumin, which is a plasma protein. So a decrease in plasma protein may decrease plasma calcium level. So next is plasma phosphate. So increase in plasma phosphate level produces a decrease in plasma calcium level, and the reverse is also true. So thus there is a inverse relationship between plasma level of calcium and phosphate. So next is calcitonin. So increase in plasma calcium level stimulates the release of calcitonin, and calcitonin in turn induces the deposition of calcium in the bone. So thus calcitonin regulates plasma calcium level, and the disease related to calcium metabolism are the first one is tetany. So it is the manifestation of hypocalcemia as occurs in hypoparathyroidism. So there is increased neuromuscular excitability in tetany. So this leads to the fibrillation and twitching of muscles, muscle spasm, epilepsy like convulsions. So next we have is osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is a metabolic disorder. It occurs as a result of calcium deficiency, and it also occurs in hypoparathyroidism and deficiency of vitamin D. So in osteoporosis, calcification of bone is defective, and bones become spongy and brittle. So spontaneous fracture of bones is very common, and it is treated by calcium supplement diet and vitamin D. So next third one is rickets. So rickets occurs in children due to deficiency of calcium, and it also occurs in deficiency of vitamin D. So what are the features? So features are the softness and deformities of bones like bow legs and pigeon chest, and delay in closure of fontanelle, and delay in tooth formation. And next is osteomalacia. It is a calcium deficiency disease which occurs in adults, and also it occurs due to deficiency of vitamin D. So features of this are the deformities and easy fractures of bones, and bending of vertebrae and bowlegs, and muscle weakness and pain. So next we have is phosphorus. So the total body content of phosphorus is 700 grams. So it is present in every cell and in blood, and it occurs as both organic and inorganic phosphorus. Sources are the milk, cheese, egg, cereals, and vegetables. And functions are that it is essential for the growth of bones and teeth, and it is required for the synthesis of nucleic acids, phospholipids, and phosphoproteins. It forms high energy compounds like ATP. It has a buffering action in blood and urine. So, in case of deficiency, rickets and osteomalacia occur in deficiency of phosphorus, calcium, and vitamin D. So, requirement are 1 to 1.5 grams per day. Next, we have a sodium. So, sodium is the principal cation of extracellular fluid, and it is present in the body as NaCl and as sodium bicarbonate. So, functions are the it helps in maintaining acid-base balance. It maintains the osmotic pressure of body fluids. It preserves the normal irritability of muscles, and with other ions, it maintains the permeability of cells. So, sources are the main source is the salt used in cooking. So next is hypernatremia. So it is an increase in plasma sodium concentration. It occurs in the dehydration as occurs in severe sweating, diabetes insipidus, excessive intravenous administration of saline, and administration of steroid hormones. So next is hyponatremia. So it is a decrease in plasma sodium level. It occurs in diuretic medication, kidney disease, severe vomiting and diarrhea, and severe burns. So next is potassium. So potassium is the major intracellular cation. It is widely distributed in body tissues and in body fluids. So a high concentration is present in nerve tissues, cells, muscles, and blood. So functions are that it helps in maintaining acid-base balance. It influences muscular activity. It plays an important role in cardio function, and it is essential for connection of nerve impulses. So the enzymes like pyruvate kinase, they require sodium potassium as a cofactor. So next we have is hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is increase in serum potassium level. So it occurs in renal failure, severe dehydration, Addison's disease, and excess administration of intravenous potassium. So the symptoms of hyperkalemia are the bradycardia, depression, mental confusion, and muscle weakness. So also next is hypokalemia. Hypokalemia is a decrease in serum potassium level. It occurs in Cushing syndrome, severe vomiting and diarrhea, prolonged use of diuretics, and familial periodic paralysis. So symptoms of hypokalemia are the tachycardia, muscle weakness, irritability, and paralysis. So student, that is all for the day. Thank you.